Welcome to Turning Tuesday, everyone. This is my live edge bowl. This is the first one I've ever made, and I'm here to share it with you. So what I'm doing here is drilling it out, and I am going far enough in that I am in the actual wood and past the bark, and then I'm just going to mount it on. Now you will notice here that there is big gaps on either side, and that's going to cause some vibrations, but it wasn't too bad. Managed to get through it. Starting with the bowl gouge and just flattening off the base. I will work through this quickly. It's only a small bowl. It's just a nice little personal nut bowl. If you wanted to sit there at the couch watching YouTube, you know, turn to your nose or something like that, I reckon your snacks would last about the length of a video. It'd be pretty good. Turning it around for a face cut, pushing back towards center. You'll notice here that my tool rest is too high. That's alright, it's still cutting nicely. Just using the lower wing there and doing a pull cut back across the face. Now we're mostly smooth, and we will start looking at moving on. So what we're going to do here is pull out the spindle gouge once I've set a rough tenon spot. I'm not sticking with any one of those, roughly there somewhere. It's only a 3mm difference between those. At some point, someone might notice. Today, I don't care. Anyway, moving on with the spindle gouge and starting to take off these corners, especially that crack that was there. So I really want to see what I've got once I've got rid of those, and hopefully there's still something I can get out of this. Or at least that's what I'm thinking at the time. You'll notice there I was doing a decent cut width, and then it just get nice and gentle up towards once I get the bark. I'm slowly moving it away from the bark and doing very gentle cuts. Moving the support in with the tailstop there. Again, a fairly heavy cut, and then coming out. Every time I turn a bowl, I'm always actively trying to get better. You'll notice at points through this video, I have taken Sid's advice. I mentioned in the last video that he told me to get my tool around, so get a proper swing on it. And I did take that advice, and you'll notice while I'm coring out the center on this one, there is most definitely a stronger angle and a deeper cut. So the coring out of this was nice and fast because I took that advice. You'll notice there I did try and get rid of some of those tool marks, but at the same time, didn't do much. So just working my way through and just doing a rough cut at the moment. There's also a lot of tear out there. I need to do a proper push cut with the nose of the tool, doing a nice gentle cut to defeat that. You'll notice here that I am starting to use the nose of the tool a bit more, and again, tapering out towards the top. Alright, so you'll notice the letters are still there. That's less than satisfying. I was pushing a little too hard there and jumped out of the cut. And again, really gentle up on that top edge. And I just said to myself, I think I just heard a chunk fly off. I had a look and there was nothing there. There's a tiny little piece of bark, nothing to be worried about. Alright, now I'm taking the tenon down and I will see what this crack is doing. I couldn't hear it anymore going around on the tool, so I'm assuming it's gone. So now I've stopped the tool, I've had a look, and I need to do something about that crack and form an actual tenon. So right now I have the skew out, using it as a negative rake, and I'm pushing in to form the tenon. So I'm treating it a bit like a scraper. Went a little too far on the right there and got a little flip around. I'm still seeing the letters there, so I need to take it down a bit more to get rid of that. I'm switching over to the actual tool that's better for that job. Scrape with a scraper. Is it gone yet? Nope. Still some there. Tiny little bit on the edge of the tenon. You can really see the radius I've got on the tip of the tool there. I was just taking it down a little bit more so that I can make sure that black is gone. Let's have another look. Still there. Let's go again. I didn't have a piece of chalk to mark it. I ended up using a permanent marker and it soaked in a little deeper than I was hoping. Again, pushing in and making it go a little deeper so that I can scrape it off and still have space for a tenon. I am going to end up losing that corner. I knew that at the time, so I wasn't overly worried about it. The letters are now gone, so I'm using the point of a skew and the right hand side to scrape that and form a nice sharp point. Just give it a little kiss there and take the sharp corner off. That will round once I've sanded it. I'm going to use the back heel of the skew here and start a detail. I'll bring it across and then I'll pull the scraper out, I believe. Left a nice little dimple there, and here I come. I've just moved that up to about the center line and I've moved it back a touch so that I can use the scraper properly. Just coming up from underneath there without going too far to the right and just smoothing it out, making those beautiful little curlies. And oops, still a little spike there, and that should be job done. Looking good. Now I'll come back and start forming the bowl properly. Right after headbutting the camera. Just using the point of the skew there to really sharpen that corner up. And I'm happy with how that's come out. The rest of that will stand up nicely. I forgot to put my little inset there. I like to taper my feet inward a little bit so the inside of the foot is deeper than the outside. I want it to be resting on the outside of the foot when it's sitting on a flat surface. And already you can start to see a proper shape starting to form there just by taking that little corner off. I realized my tool was not cutting like I'd like it to, and so I've just lowered my tool rest a little bit, and I'm coming through with a proper nose push cut. In person, I couldn't quite see that lip because it is very small, but on the zoomed in camera, I most certainly can see it. And I'm finding this gentle cut to be very satisfying. Nice wispy shavings coming off there. Switching over to my square end scraper. Inverted apparently, and just coming around with a shear scrape, trying to get rid of some of those issues that I'm seeing. I end up going back in with a flat, gentle pass, but that will create tear out, and I will have to address that after. Just using this square end scraper to define that profile fully. As you can see, there is a little bit of tear out around the end grain, but that shape is really starting to come together. So what I'm doing now is just sanding up through 120 to 400, and we'll see what happens with that grain. You can hear that rubbing across the surface of the bark, because there is that void, so it's making a nice rat-a-tat-ta. Now, I am happy with how this has come out, so I'm going to apply some oil. This is chopping board oil, so it's a lemon oil, and it's come out quite nice. It doesn't alter the color much, but it does deepen it just because it's soaking in. And applying some beeswax. Now we'll get a quick look at the outside, nice and sanded with finish on. It's come together quite nicely, and it appears there is some figure through there. And time to core. You may notice I've been using the Jacob chuck and the drill bit to rest my next set of sanding paper. I've got to take it off anytime I use that Jacob's chuck. And back in the holder. I am going to stick with the spindle gouge until I get out to the edge, at which point I will change over to the more sturdy tool. I'm just doing push cuts in to get down to depth. And that bark is sending particles everywhere. Extremely dusty. Again, getting mesmerized by my own turning. I'm very much enjoying this. Switching over to the heavier bowl gouge now and just finishing off those initial cuts. And I can tell I am now close to that depth hole. So I'm going to switch into focusing on forming the proper shape and swing it around. You'll notice here, the tip of the tool, the bevel is getting more close to parallel on the lathe bed, and that just gets it to sink in nice and deep, nice and quick, as well as give me a chance to form properly. So that is now down mostly to depth. Oops. Just going to do some nice little passes here and try and get the bottom all balanced out. I'm just picking up previous cuts there, and now I'm coming in for some final cuts here. Very parallel there. As you can see, sinking in nice and deep, nice and fast. And then we swing it around for the formation of that bend. I will clean this up because this tool's not going to do that radius very well. So there is going to be a flat spot or a thick spot throughout there. And the only way to clean that up is with a scraper. I've realized I've made my depth hole too shallow by about 2 centimeters, and unlike my last video, this time I opted to go back with the tool. Coming in from the width. So I've at the point now where I'm happy with the thickness of the wall, and it's just about making sure the roundness of the bowl is actually formed properly. So I've now felt around the bowl, had a feel from the inside and the outside to understand where the thick spots are, where the flat spots are. I'm just coming back with the tool because I know I'm still a long way from that bottom, and just trying to get back in there to sort that out. Nice dimple in the middle. So, unlike the last one, I'm now coming in at an appropriate time with the scraper. It is freshly sharpened, so it is picking up the cut very nicely. And coming into a scrape cut on the outside there, I realized I was holding it on a little bit of a wrong angle, and it's just getting some really big bite in. Now I think I've just gone and sharpened again, and as you can see it's picking up. Yeah, so the last bit wasn't sharpened, this one most definitely is. I take out that center and I just bring it around. I'm using the curvature of the tool to indicate what's going on, and I'm trying not to come back up the walls because I'm very happy with how that's formed already. Now I'm into a shear cut here, so there's a chance I'm gonna come up the wall one more time because I am seeing on the right hand side there a little bit of a spot that I'm not quite happy with. Watching this back now, it's looking like we are now in a relatively good space for the curvature and just everything of the bowl. It's starting to form exactly the way I need it to. People might be interested in the thumbnail. There was 2 dogs. The blonde one, or the gold one, is Techno, and the black one is Disco. They are my party animals. I love them very much. They're both 4 years old, and they are absolutely part of my family, and I decided to exploit them for the thumbnail because bark and live edge. Bark, bark. Off we go. Okay, so we are standing here on the first grit, that's 120, and second grit is 180. So that's the yellow, 180, and I'm pretty sure that's not actually making contact with any sandpaper right there. The things you notice when watching back. We move on to the 240, now that I've burnished it with the back of the yellow. And then we will move on to the 320 and then the 400. So this is the 320. Giving that a really good chance to capture any of those last ones before going to the final grid. And straight into the 400 now, and it is coming together very nice. So before I move on to applying a finish, I'm going to blow out all the pores and all the cracks in the bark. And that's come out very nice. So now we're going to hit it with the oil, and as you can see, everything is slightly darkening but maintaining almost identical color. So I'm just going around putting a nice deep layer on, and then I'll come in with the wax and put that on. Again, you'll notice I never wrap the towel in my hand, especially when I'm doing something like this, because if it's got something loose that can get caught, I don't want my hand getting ripped with it. And that is an absolutely gorgeous bowl. You can see that figure as it rotates, the chatoyance shifting from a gold to almost a pure white, and it's come out absolutely gorgeous. Just a nice little hand-sized snack bowl, and that will be very satisfying to eat nuts out of, or some chips or something. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Leave a comment, let me know your favorite part, or if you'd like more photos of Techno and Disco, or maybe some video.